Good morning. So today this video comes from a revelation I received really early. Woke up and it was just kind of lingering to the point to where I didn't really want to go back to sleep because I felt like this particular download came for a reason. Not only because of my personal situations, but I think things kind of slowly peel back and are given to you as you keep going and persist through the hardship that comes with learning about the law of assumption, your mind, manifestation, God in general. So this morning, faith is the topic. And this morning, I'm really starting to understand how important faith is, not only in life, but in this road that we're walking, understanding ourselves, understanding our true identity, understanding God, but then also understanding how to use the power that God gave us. Faith is your superpower. Faith is the secret ingredient. Faith is the thing that you are given, honestly, as the life source that animates whatever you want to see in this dream of life. So when it comes to the law of assumption, manifestation, whatever, you want to call it, there's this belief that you can do something wrong, you can mess something up, or there's a belief that it just don't work. And after this morning, I no longer believe that. I no longer believe that because I feel like I've been given the right way to look at it. It always works. And I'll explain what I mean by that. It always works because faith is the secret ingredient. And that's why there are tons of Bible verses that stress the importance of faith. And I'll actually read those to you in a second. But that's also why Neville says an assumption, though false, is if persisted in, will harden into fact. It's the faith that gives it life, not the assumption, not the techniques, not the writing it down 100 million times on a piece of paper, not the funky and fancy meditations. Honestly, not even the stats. I'm kind of starting to understand now why people have said like, I think her name is Missy. I wish I could remember the YouTuber, but she said something in one of her videos that kind of stuck with me. And now I'm starting to understand it. All the techniques you do are a placebo effect, and they exist solely for the purpose of getting you to believe something and to apply your faith to it. But then again, it also makes sense why it says in the Bible that until you become like children, you'll never enter the kingdom of heaven, because a child, their faith is just, they're really in tune with their faith. A child will believe anything. They have the superpower of believing absolutely anything. That's why your daughter can have a tea party with an elephant, a tiger, and a raccoon, and every single one of those stuffed animals are talking to her. She never questions it. She never doubts it. She puts her faith into what's going on into her imagination, and to her, that is all real. I will say this, and I cannot stress this enough. If you are going down the road of manifestation, if you are going down the road of law of assumption, if you truly do believe that this is the answer, this is your purpose, to learn how to create as God creates, I would strongly suggest that you read a Bible. And I can understand how at first that might be uncomfortable, because one of the first things that you run into on this road is kind of cleaning out all the junk that was put in your mind when it comes to God, when it comes to religion, even when it comes to a Bible, because we've been taught to perceive a lot of that the wrong way. But the more I read a Bible and the more I start to connect it to the law of assumption, the more I start to connect it to who God really is, the more I start to connect it to me, I realize the importance of why it's needed and why it needs to be read. Because there's just a there's a treasure trove of information in there that is not only meant to comfort you, but is meant to really help you understand how this works. So I want to read a couple of the verses to kind of stress the idea of faith. Hebrews 1, chapter 11, verse 1. Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Hebrews 11. Actually, we're going to make an edit and go back for a second. I just realized that I was reading the numbers on a list as opposed to reading the chapters. But the first verse I just read is Hebrews 11:1. The second one is Hebrews 11:6. And without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who seek him. The next verse says, Mark 9:23, Jesus said to him, if you can believe, all things are possible for one who believes. So if you pay attention to the common theme that's spreading across these verses, and I can actually post the link that I'm reading on that has 20 different Bible verses that are on faith. All of these verses are really just telling you the same thing. If you believe, anything is possible. It's impossible to please God without faith. What faith really is just a belief in the unseen. Because the truth is, we have been trained to accept whatever our human senses can perceive as an objective fact. And the problem with that is we've also been taught to believe that facts are concrete, that facts cannot be altered, changed, and it is what it is. Sky's always going to be blue, no matter what. Sky's always going to be blue. And, that can apply to your social status. That can apply to your appearance. That can apply to everything. That when you look at your life the way it is right now, if you go off of what your senses tell you, there's no evidence that's going to suggest that your life can be different, because your senses collect information from the past. It mixes it in with some information from your present, and then it broadcasts a future based off of those two things. And then it broadcasts that your future is probably going to be the same. So that is the trap of the human senses. And doubt, I have this interesting little thing that I wrote down this morning where I say the human senses, the perception of the human senses is the language of doubt. And that's what makes it tricky, because your entire life you've been taught to believe that what your senses see is an objective, concrete fact. So here's the way I kind of want you to look at it going forward. And this is getting back into what I said, it always works. An assumption is like a seed. So let's just we'll take two seeds. We'll take a positive seed and a negative seed. So we'll take the positive seed of I am healthy. We'll take the negative seed of I am sick. The truth is, you have no concrete evidence for either assumption. In your imagination, when you assume, or in your mind, when you assume I am healthy or I am sick, both of those are neutral seeds with no energy in them. And the moment you say I am and place something after it, you've planted that seed. Now here's where the faith comes in. Faith is like water to the seed. When you say I am healthy, where that tends to go in the opposite direction, or where we tend to naturally water the seed of the thing that we don't want because we're human and humans are creatures of habit. Let's just say the positive seed of I am healthy has been planted. You immediately go back to the habit of processing what's real and what's not by what you see, what you hear, what you can touch. So if you say I am healthy, and then let's just say you go look and you look in the mirror and you can see that you got a sinus infection. Your eyes are red, your nose is running, you look terrible. You immediately go to watering I am sick because you saw something and you instantly believed what you saw. But as we can tell by these Bible verses, this is really a battle of the seen versus the unseen. And if you are in a habit of placing your faith in places where you can see, you are, without even realizing it, constantly watering seeds that you don't want to sprout. There's actually a Bible verse in 2 Corinthians 4:18. It says, so we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. There's another Bible verse in Hebrews 11:3 that says, by faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. So many Bible verses are all saying the same thing. It is about being able to put your attention and your faith, which is the water for that seed, on the unseen and not the seen. Because as long as you give that attention and energy to the seen, you're going to naturally water the seed that you don't want. You have no choice, because doubt, like I said, the human senses are the language of doubt. That's where doubt dwells, is in the human senses, because the human senses do not have the ability to perceive the unseen. The human senses will always function off of information that's incomplete. Let's take relationships, for example, because I truly do believe that this is one of the areas that I have always historically done it the worst in my life. Let's just say the person that you're with, they say something to you, or let's just say one day they do something differently. I don't know. Maybe they sip their coffee a little bit different and they just happen to go up to the bathroom and they don't say good morning the same way they did the day before. You have a choice at that point. You have a choice of which seed you want to plant, which is going back to the original point of this video, is this actually always works. It's crazy to me right now because I'm simultaneously going back through a lot of the things that I've done, but I just realized this always works. So the person that you're with, they just seem off that day. And the times where things like that happen, you plant all the time, whether you realize you're doing it or not. So you plant a seed at that moment, but you have a choice of which seed you're about to plant. You can plant a seed of a positive explanation or just a neutral explanation, or you can plant a seed of a negative explanation. And as you plant these seeds, you are creating assumptions. You are creating stories. Oh, they didn't say good morning to me the way they did yesterday because I did something wrong. They did not say good morning to me the way they did yesterday because they have an attitude. They must not like me. Maybe they don't love me. Maybe there's someone else. Maybe someone else has their attention. Any of that sound familiar? Any of that sound familiar, that something very simple can happen and the human senses lose their freaking mind trying to prophesy some grand story of what could have happened, is happening, and none of those assumptions are true at the moment that you make them, nor do they have information to make them true. Now let's go to the positive assumptions, because this is actually how funny it could get, and this proves my point. You could even go as far as to say, they didn't say good morning to me. They're walking upstairs to bring me down a present. That silence is because they're going upstairs because they want to surprise me with something. They're coming back with some long love letter. They're coming back with $100 in a suitcase, or I'm sorry, in an envelope. That $100 I would really hope that the person that you're with doesn't bring you $100 in a suitcase, because you'd probably be pissed. What the hell did you bring me a suitcase for as a gift? And there's only $100 in it. But neither here nor there. They're coming back with an envelope with $100 in it. They're going to come back downstairs and give me the biggest hug and kiss that they've ever given me in their entire life. They're going to come back downstairs and they're just going to like be all over me. And you have the choice to make it neutral. Probably tired. Probably just a little bit sleepy. That coffee's just waiting to kick in yet. But you see, that's the power of our minds. The human mind is powerful. That is what we were given. That is God's gift to us. That right there. That example that I just went down, that is God's gift to us. Is because once that seed is planted, whichever story we go with, we then begin to water that seed. And as we repeatedly water that seed actually sprouts, it takes root, and it grows. And once it grows, it forms what I like to call the tree of life. And a tree can only produce fruit of its own kind. And when a tree produces fruit, you pluck the fruit, you eat it, and then you experience the manifestation or experience the fruit of that tree. So it is important for you to understand going forward. For those of you that may be stressed out, for those of you that are doubting, for those of you that think you're doing something wrong and your life is falling apart and maybe you're crazy and maybe law of assumption doesn't work, maybe manifestation doesn't work. Why the hell did I do any of this? I'm just a crazy person. You're not crazy. It actually works so well that you don't even realize that it works all the time in both directions. And the only reason you believe that it does not work is because you keep seeing what you don't want. So you assume that this does not work. But in some weird paradoxical way, it is actually working. It is just working in the negative. And it is that makes you believe that, well, it must not work because I'm not getting what I want and I keep getting what I don't want. But that's what you're watering. You're watering everything you don't want. I don't actually believe that this is hard. I believe what is hard is untraining your habits. That is the part that I will be 100% honest with you, is freaking like wrestling a bear with a hand tied behind your back. Because humans are creatures of habit. Regardless if what we truly are is the thing behind the human being, for a plan that I've been told but have yet to experience, we are going through this human journey for our own benefit, to not only teach us about this power, but to teach us about ourselves and make us grow. So these challenges are a part of it. But make no mistake, I understand being human is freaking hard. Because just based off the fact of humans are creatures of habit. And when you go wrestle that bear, I understand it. It's not easy. I can understand why you get discouraged. I can understand why sometimes you want to quit, because it's not easy wrestling that. But there's a video I saw on Instagram. I think they said it was Michael Jordan's trainer or whatever, where he said your mind has to be stronger than how you feel. And I like that, because I feel like that same thing applies to when you're wrestling the creature of habit. Your mind, your desire to be what you want to be, has to be stronger than how you feel. But I'm actually going to take that a step further and make it just a little bit biblical. Your mind or your faith has to be stronger than your doubt or what your human senses perceive. Because if you bow down to your senses, you will always lose, because you will only serve doubt and you will never serve faith. You'll never serve God. And like we've already been told, it's impossible to please him without faith. It is impossible for you to become what you want to be if you are not willing to believe that you already are what you want to be. Because the outer world is not the cause of anything. The outer world is just a reflection of what the inner world is. So today I would like to encourage you to continue to be a conscious creator. I would like to encourage you to now go through life and realize that this is always working. It's always working. It has 100% success rate. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. Like, even as I go throughout my day to day, I'm no longer even going to entertain the idea of this is not working, because it is. I just have to choose which direction I want this to go in. I have to be more consciously aware of the seeds that I'm watering. So the link to the faith post will be in the description. But again, please, 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 please read the Bible. Do not look at it as a religious history book anymore. Look at the Bible as an instruction manual to your mind. Look at the Bible as something that is addressed to the inner man, to the human spirit, to the human mind. Look at the Bible as your guide and something that is meant to help you understand the power that was given to you and understand how to navigate that. So that way you can truly make a better life for yourself. Neville says we were given the law to try to create a better life for ourselves while we wait for the promise. So while we wait for God's grand plan to fulfill itself, why would you want to sit and, especially when you don't know when your number is going to be called, why would you want to sit and wait around and experience crap? Why would you? I'll just turn the filter off for a second. Why would you want to spend a lifetime of eating shit while you're waiting for your number to get called? Why? Why? Especially if you've been given a way to not do it. Especially if you've been given a way to paint what you want to paint. You are not helpless. You are not powerless. And I realize that life has done a very good job of making us believe that we have no say, we have no power, we are a victim of circumstance, and whatever happens in our life just happens. I've had things happen to me recently that have made this journey hard, just because, again, I've always been taught to believe that whatever happens out there, that's just the end of it. There's no turnaround for it. If you break a bone, you broke a bone. If you got let go from your job, you got let go from your job. If someone stole money out of your bank account, it's gone. Again, we've been taught and locked into the habit of perceiving whatever happens out here as a fact. But facts are fluid. We are bigger than facts. And when I say we, I'm not speaking about the human. I'm not speaking about the person in the mirror. That's a vessel. That's a temple. That's a mask for what you really are, for who you really are, which is something that's behind all that. So who we really are is bigger than facts, because who we really are has the ability to change facts to their liking. It's just about, are you going to believe that? So when we're told to fear God, that makes all the sense in the world now. You should. I really now understand that. It didn't make sense as a kid, but now I really do get it. Fear God is giving the proper respect to the power of imagination. And the reason why you should fear God is because if you don't give the proper respect to imagination and you just use it unwisely, you're going to create hell for yourself. And then you're going to blame other people for it. And that don't even really make no sense. So that's why we're told to fear God. We're told to understand, acknowledge, and respect the power of God, which is our human imagination, which is consciousness. That's the technical term for it. I like saying imagination because it makes it make the most sense to me. But there's a lot of different terms that you can use to make it make sense to you. You can say the mind, you can say imagination, you can say consciousness, whatever you want to say. Say whatever makes it click for you. But that thing, that awareness, that force, yeah, that's God. And the reason why you should fear that is because that thing is cranking out everything you have ever experienced in your entire life. And it is going to continue to do it, which is why it is in your best interest to accept and believe this information, because whether you believe it or not, it's going to keep doing it. It always works. It does not turn off. So why not empower yourself by going through life consciously and consciously create? So to summarize, an assumption, negative, positive, or neutral, is a seed. Your faith in that assumption is the water. And as you repeatedly put faith into that assumption, which is faith, all it really boils down to is believing something that you cannot see. And no matter how much your senses do a good job of trying to, make you believe that they know what they're talking about, they don't, because the human senses can only perceive partial information. No matter how much of a fact it believes like you're looking at, there's always going to be something that the human senses cannot perceive, even down to what the other person was thinking and or feeling, and plenty of unseen factors. So it's all assumptions, all of it. So when an assumption is planted, when a story is told, your faith will dictate which seed is going to sprout first. So practice, give yourself some time, be patient with yourself, give yourself grace. You are human trying to unlearn how to be human, or at least the habitual part of it. That's not easy. You don't have to beat yourself up. You don't have to stress yourself out. It's a part of it. It's cool. We all going through it at the same time, and it's the challenge that we've all agreed to take up. So be patient with yourself. That love and understanding, give it to yourself. And day by day, practice a little bit at a time, watering the assumptions, the seeds that you actually want to blossom, to sprout and give you a wonderful tree. Don't focus on what you don't want. Focus on what you do want. If you just had an argument with your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your lover, whatever, focus on the resolution of the argument. If you feel like your boss is treating you terribly at work, don't focus on the fact that your boss is treating you terribly at work. Focus that your boss is treating you how you want to be treated. Your attention, your faith, which is funny because I think all these are really just the same thing. Your faith is power. Be wise with your power and only water the seeds that you want to sprout. Only water the seeds that you want to grow. You will make mistakes, and that's fine. You will go back to watering the wrong seed sometime, which is fine. It's habit. But gently guide yourself back to watering the correct seed. And as you continue to practice, and as you continue to get more comfortable with this, before you know it, you're going to form a new habit. A habit of watering the positive seeds, the neutral seeds, and discarding the ones you don't want. Faith is Your Fortune. That is a book by Neville, by the way. I would recommend reading it. But now I understand today, I truly understand why he titled that book, Faith is Your Fortune. Faith is your superpower. Faith is quite literally the secret ingredient, the key. It's faith, man. It is faith. And I cannot stress that enough. When you leave this YouTube video today, understand, faith is truly the key. Faith is your fortune. Faith is your power. Faith is the answer.